If you'd like online business explained to you in a way that you can actually understand, go to latenightim.com/explain. It's completely free, and I made it just for you. Now, how about an episode?
Episode 109.
Late Night Internet Marketing.
This week on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, it's all about search engine optimization. That's SEO for your very best content. I offer you 14 critical tips that you need to pay attention to if you want your content to rank in search engines, particularly Google. All this and more on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
The Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
You've been working for somebody else, but you want a business to run yourself. You want to know how to start and where to begin. Can you get out your comfort zone, my friend? Yes, you can do it right when it's late at night. At the end of the day, your dreams burning inside. So keep it up and you will find that you're building your business one night at a time.
And now, broadcasting late at night from a little studio in the big state of Texas, your host, Mark Mason.
Hey, I hope you're having a fantastic week, and I hope you got some of your homework accomplished. If you haven't emailed me to tell me about what's going on in your business, I'm really ready to hear from you. Go ahead and reach out at support@latenightim.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what's going on, what's challenging you, and how I can help. Now, this week, I have done something pretty cool. I did some of my homework. I made some progress in my business, working on multiple fronts, but one of the things that I did this week was I released a new version of the theme over at latenighinternetmarketing.com. It's got a whole new look. Go and check it out. Let me know what you think. Drop me a line at support@latenightim.com. I'd love to hear if you can find broken stuff because, boy, let me tell you, rather than do my normal test site, full development, and then deploy, I used kind of a ready, fire, aim sort of approach here because I wanted to test out this new fantastic theme framework that I've been working with that I'm really in love with. I'll be talking about that in a later episode in a couple of weeks, but let me know what you think. I've been working on a lot of stuff over there. It's going to be pretty cool. Lots of value up front on the homepage. The blog page is pretty cool. So let me know what you think. If you find that helpful, if there are features you'd like, or if you find anything broken, again, that's support@latenightim.com. Now, this week, we are going to be talking about SEO for your content. Really critical because if you create great content, you want it to rank in the search engines because that's where your free traffic is going to come from. We're going to talk about that. I've got 14 hot tips for you. They're going to take the whole episode. Let's get right into it.
It's time to get to work building your internet business. One night at a time.
One night at a time.
Okay, so before we get into the list of 14 things that I think you should be doing on each and every piece of content that you create, I want to set the stage a little bit. Why is it that we're talking about this? What is it? What does it mean? What are the words that I'm about to use mean? You know, what are we talking about? And for those of you that aren't familiar with this world of SEO or search engine optimization, what we're talking about is creating your content and building your website in a way that is super friendly to Google and other search engines so that they will decide to show your website to searchers who type in certain phrases. We call those phrases keyword phrases. So if you go to Google because you want to buy some blue suede shoes, let's say you're going to an Elvis party and you need some blue suede shoes because you're down with that like Elvis, then you would go to Google and you'd type in blue suede shoes, Dallas, Texas, or something like that. And hopefully Google would tell you where you could buy blue suede shoes in Dallas, Texas. That's what you're hoping. So that phrase, blue suede shoes, Dallas, Texas, is the keyword phrase, or sometimes we refer to it as the keyword or the keywords, but that's what we're trying to optimize for. So the question is, if you want to be the person who ranks in Google for the phrase blue suede shoes in Dallas, Texas, what do you need to do? And it turns out there's two sort of categories of things that you want to do. One set of things that you want to do is what we call on-page search engine optimization, which means that it's the stuff that you do on your website. How do you want to write the post? What do you want to make sure is true or not true about your post? And the other thing that we talk about a lot of times is off-page optimization. Now, off-page optimization used to be super important. It's still very important because Google needs a way to decide whether or not your post is a great post. And one of the ways that they do that is by trying to make a judgment about what the internet thinks about your post. So that's off-page optimization. Now, most of these 14 tips, and I may offer you a bonus tip, most of these 14 tips are going to be about on-page optimization in this episode. We probably need a whole additional episode to talk more about off-page issues and things. But in the face of this Google Penguin update that we've talked about over the last couple of episodes, a lot of the off-page stuff is changing. So today what I want to talk about is on-page stuff. Now, you guys have heard about, white hat and gray hat and black hat. My perspective here for the course of this episode is white hat. That is doing the right thing for the internet, doing the right thing for readers, and doing the right thing for Google, not trying to trick readers or trying to trick Google into ranking your posts. We're talking about the white hat stuff, the good guy SEO stuff here in this episode. So I hope that helps you understand where we're coming from. So with that, let's get right into the list of 14. Now, I know a lot of you are driving, or you're at the gym, or I don't know, maybe you're doing something crazier than that, like washing the dishes, and you don't have time to write stuff down. Don't worry about that. Again, this week, I have a very special PDF for you that outlines this list. It's an SEO checklist, my on-page SEO checklist, and that's available for download for you right from the show notes. Just go to latenightim.com/109, and you'll see a big button in the show notes, and you can download that, no problem, okay? So you can just kind of chill out and download that as soon as you get to a computer. So the first item number one is, do you know what keywords you're targeting? I mean, this is a pretty common question. You have this idea for content, and the question you should be asking is, what exactly would someone type into Google and expect to find this content? I mean, what would that phrase be? I mean, sometimes we write stuff, it's really hard to say exactly what it is that we want to happen. And I think with every piece of content that you write on your website, you do need to know what it is that you want to happen. So if you had in your mind the ideal phrase that someone would type in Google, such that when they typed that and hit return, your post was the number one listing in Google, blinking, ready for them to click. And when they clicked on it, and here's the trick, here's the really important part, when they clicked on it, they'd be delighted that Google gave them that result. That's your keyword. So that's your keyword phrase that you're trying to figure out. You need to figure out what that is. And sometimes it helps to consider, what is it exactly that you want the user to do when they reach your post? What action, what's the call to action for your post? What do you want them to do when they get there? Sometimes that'll help you. For example, do you want them to opt into your email list? Do you want them to click through an affiliate link? Do you want them to buy a product on that page? All of that kind of helps. And so, if your keyword is buy blue suede shoes in Dallas, then probably your page is about a blue suede shoes product listing for a store in Dallas. And so you need to match that up. We call that message to market match, and that's really important. So number one is know what keyword you're targeting. Number two is have multiple versions of the keyword in the post. And I don't mean just the keyword. And it's important that we no longer stuff the keyword. You know, back in the day, the more times the keyword was in the post, the more love you got from Google with regard to ranking. So if blue suede shoes was your keyword, boy, you wanted to make sure that was in there 13%. There was always a magic number, or 17% of the time. Really, the truth is now you don't want it in there more than a couple of times. Google's really sensitive to this keyword stuffing business. But what you do want in there is you want variations of the keyword. So maybe azure suede shoes, or light blue suede shoes, or light blue leather shoes, parentheses, suede, you know, various things. Because what Google is looking for is human-like conversation. And humans don't repeat the same phrase over and over again. We are trained as writers to use variations of the phrase so that the reading is not monotonous. And that's the way you need to think about it. You can go to a tool like Ubersuggest at ubersuggest.com, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes, and get lots of ideas for what the related keywords are for the keyword that you've targeted. And you want to sprinkle those throughout the post. Again, your main keyword, maybe once at the beginning, once at the end, your related keywords once each throughout the post, and that will give the Google search engine an idea of the general family of keywords that you're trying to target with the post, and that's going to be really helpful. Number three, and this is arguably the most important one in the list, and I think you really need to ask yourself this question and be honest, and you need to check and find out what the answer to this question is. Number three is the content that you're about to hit the publish button on, is it better than all the other content for that keyword? And if not, what's missing? And why haven't you added that? Is it the best content for the keyword? And I'll tell you why this is important. It is certainly true that using off-page SEO strategies and other kinds of optimization, you may be able to outrank better content today. But why do that? Why run the risk that someday Google is going to get smart enough through artificial intelligence or whatever technology they deploy in their search engine to figure out that you don't have the best content and have you lose that ranking? Why not start out having the best content for that keyword? Because I'm going to tell you what Google's job is, what they're trying to do with the search engine. I mean, Google's job is to make money, but the search engine algorithm's job is to find the best content. So even if you don't outrank some other junky content today, eventually, if your content is the best, Google is trying to make sure that someday you do. So if you have the best content, Google will be on your side. And that makes a lot of sense to me. So you want to make sure that you have the best content, because that's the direction that Google is trying to head every day, with hundreds of engineers and 500 Google algorithm updates per year. Number three is definitely that you need to make sure that you have the best content for the keyword. Number four is a little bit more tactical, and this is just because we've seen this signal in keyword algorithms and regressions that we do when we study SEO, is you need to have more words than the competition. It turns out that, and it's not always true, but if you look at hundreds of thousands of pages that rank for particular keywords, and you consider different weighting factors, is the keyword in the title? How many times does it appear in the post? One of the important ranking factors these days is whether or not the content is what we call long form. And so I think as a very simple matter, you should put your keyword in, look at the competition, see how many words that they have on their page and try to have more words than them, just as a very simple rule of thumb. Now, see also rule number 3. Your words should be awesome. But the point is that 500 awesome words are going to get crushed by 2,000 mediocre words more often than not. So part of having the best content, rule number 3, is having the longest, most complete, and deepest content. That's rule number 4. Try to have more words than the competition. Number 5 is a detail of implementation. You want to make sure that your main keyword, the keyword that you're trying to rank for, is in the title tag and post slug. Now, what are those things? The post slug is a WordPress phrase that has something to do with the URL, and the title tag, well, that's an HTML thing. So let's break that down a little bit. So when you go into WordPress or whatever you're using to create a piece of content, you're often asked for a title for that post. Your post has a title. That title that you type into that little box, when you hit publish, that whole post is created as HTML, hypertext markup language. And that's what your browser, Safari or Google Chrome or Internet Explorer, that's the programming language that it reads. Your website offers up this HTML language, and your browser reads that programming code, and that's how it knows where to put the pictures and what to make bold and when to do a paragraph break and how to do a sidebar, and all that is in some form of HTML. And inside of that HTML, there are these things that don't display necessarily that help the computer understand what's coming at them. And one of them is this so-called title tag. And various browsers use this title tag in various ways. And one of the ways that they use it is that's, if you've ever noticed, like in Internet Explorer or Chrome, the tab, the browsing tab for the page that you're on, the title appears up there. Usually it's cut off because it's just a little bitty space, especially if you have lots of tabs open. Well, that's the browser reading the title tag. Well, guess who else reads the title tag? You got it. Google reads the title tag, and that's what they're using for the search engine listing. So when you search blue suede shoes and you see that the third entry down is best blue suede shoes in the Dallas Metroplex, that title of that search engine listing comes from the title tag. And we know from doing, again, these kind of studies of what's ranking, that having the keyword in the title tag makes a big difference. It makes sense, right? I mean, the title is what the article is supposed to be about. And so you would expect that your title, your keyword, what your article is about, is actually showing up. So if you're trying to rank for blue suede shoes, you definitely want to have the phrase blue suede shoes in this title tag, as opposed to doing something very clever. Like you could have a very clever post title that said something like, want to wear the shoes that Elvis used to wear? Buy them here now. Well, what in the world is that article about? It's about the shoes that Elvis used to wear. But that's not what people are typing into Google. They're typing blue suede shoes into Google. So a better title tag would be blue suede shoes, the shoes of Elvis, buy now, or something like that. Something that had blue suede shoes in the title. Likewise, you want to try and get blue suede shoes into the URL. You want your keyword into the address that people have to type in to go directly to your page. In WordPress, the end of that address after the website name is kind of the page name, and it's called the post slug inside of WordPress. You want to make sure that that has your keyword in there as well. And WordPress kind of creates this automatically. When you title your post, you'll notice that the post slug has something to do with your title. A lot of times you're going to want to edit that and make it in general shorter to contain your post slug mostly only, to contain your keyword rather mostly only. So again, Rule number 5 is to make sure that your main keyword, this keyword that you're trying to target, is in both the title tag and the post slug. Number 6, and this is often overlooked, but it's related. Is this title compelling? This is a lot of times the title tag that I was talking about in number 5. We call it the SEO title, and that's because it is now possible with plugins like the Yoast SEO plugin. I'll link to that in the show notes as well. It's possible to have one title tag that Google sees that is used for your search engine listing and so forth, and another sort of title that's used on your blog. So maybe, the blog page title that people see when they read your blog, maybe you want something longer or more informal or more clever or more catchy. But for Google, you want this title tag, this SEO title, to be something that's specifically written for searchers. Those can be two different things now with modern software. And in that case, you want to make sure that you understand that thing that you're writing, this title tag that's going to be used by Google, the so-called SEO title, that's going to be seen by searchers, and they're going to decide whether or not to click on your link to give you the traffic. Those searchers, they're going to have 10 or 20 choices to choose from. They're going to pick one, and whether or not they pick you is going to have a lot to do with how well you write that title tag. So not only do you need to optimize it for keyword placement, you need to get the word blue suede shoes in there. You got to make sure it's like copywriting. You've got to write something that's intriguing that makes people want to click. The 7 things you didn't know about blue suede shoes and were afraid to ask revealed, something like that, right? I mean, you want something that's interesting. Obviously, I'm not a professional copywriter. You want something that's interesting in the title tag that makes people go, oh, that sounds cool, click. And that's how you get the click traffic. So number 6 is to make sure that your title tag is compelling. And I guess I would say clear and compelling. Again, you don't want to be too clever, because if people can't understand what it is that you're trying to say, then obviously they're not going to click. And with regard to making the tag compelling, again, the Yoast SEO program lets you see, the plugin lets you see what the tag is going to look like. I highly recommend that, because the length is critical here. You don't want the dots of ellipses because you've made the tag too long, or you don't want it looking funny because you've made it too short. You want the Goldilocks version, right? You want it just right. And the Yoast SEO plugin will help you do that very well. Related to this is number 7. Same reason. Is your description compelling? I always recommend putting the keywords in the description, because Google bolds them. If someone searches for blue suede shoes and the words blue suede shoes are in your description, there will be bold. So that will draw eyeball attention to your description. But again, people are reading this description. The keywords aren't used as a weight in the SEO algorithm if they're in the description, as far as we know, but they are used by the people that are using Google to decide whether or not to click. So it's really important. Again, this is a copywriting exercise, that you write a compelling description that delivers a benefit. That's usually what I try to do in my description, delivers a benefit to the reader if they click on the link. You want to incentivize them to click on the link. Tell them what's there and tell them how it's going to help them. That benefit kind of arrangement in the description will help you get clicks. Find the best deals on blue suede shoes in the Dallas area and look like $1 million. Be wearing blue suede shoes for your party tonight. Something like that. Again, I'm not a copywriter and I don't play one on TV. So that's item number 7. And it's not strictly an SEO thing, because again, Google doesn't weight the words in that in the algorithm, as far as we know, but the readers do. And so that's another example of where we're writing for readers and clickers and the like. Number 8, every post that you create, one of the things that we've learned in the last couple of years, and I've mentioned this on the show before, every post that you create should have a couple of outbound authority links. So, for example, if you're talking about Elvis Presley in this post for blue suede shoes, it would be a good idea to link to the Elvis Presley Wikipedia page. And that's a good example for two reasons. Number one is it satisfies this thing that Google seems to be looking for, in that real websites with real authorities, with real authority in what they're talking about, they link to other websites with authority. I mean, that's what real writers do. When real writers talk about moon phase, they link to the Farmer's Almanac website as their reference, right? That's what real researchers and writers do. So Google's looking for that. No real website that I can think of it writes authoritative content without linking to references that lend to their authority. So you need to be doing that too. And my recommendation is that you try to do that twice per article, and you want to link to stuff that it's unlikely that the readers that you're targeting are going to want to click on, because we don't want to send readers away from the site. So in the blue suede shoes example, the people that are buying those blue suede shoes, the reader that you want is the reader that's going to click through and buy your shoes, or click through and get the address or phone number to your store and call you up for some shoes. You're not targeting the reader that's researching a high school paper on Elvis. So linking out to Elvis, that doesn't take away really the traffic that you care about. That takes away people who are distracted by Elvis. The traffic that you wouldn't, an example that where you wouldn't want to link out is you don't want to link blue suede shoes to something. Like, say there's a Wikipedia article on blue suede shoes. We don't want that traffic going to Wiki, because we need those people to buy our shoes. And so pick a couple of things where you can link out to authority sites, but not leak away your traffic. Number 9 is also good for SEO in general for your website, if not for the post that you're working on right then, is to link to other pages in your website. Again, this is a very natural thing that Google is expecting. And some of these types of suggestions also help fight against the other animal algorithm, Panda. The Panda algorithm, named not actually after an animal, but as I understand it, a man at Google named Mr. Panda, or probably knowing Google, Dr. Panda, is an artificial intelligence algorithm that uses thousands and probably by now hundreds of thousands of human website reviews to teach a program how to rate a website. And the kinds of things you can look for on a website that tell you whether it's spammy or good or not are linking. And inbound links and outbound links are things that are easy to understand programmatically. So if thousands of Google employees review websites and mark, some of them as spammy, and it happens that most spammy websites don't have outbound links, then the Panda algorithm will learn, hey, if I see a website without outbound links or inbound links, links into the interior of the website, that's probably a good chance that this is just a website that somebody threw up one day hoping to get some clicks, and it's a spammy website. And so that's one of the reasons to go do this. The other reason is that insofar as Google gives your page, this page on blue suede shoes, some authority, you've written fantastic content and you've got more words than everybody else and you're doing a great job and so forth, that authority, you can pass that to other pages in your site. In the same manner, if there's an opportunity for you to link other pages in your site back to your website, that will allow you to pass link juice back to this site that you're trying to rank. So interlinking of a website, I guess the bottom line for this tip number 9, link from your page to other pages in your site and link from other pages in your site back to this page that you're writing. Now, number 10, and one that's sometimes overlooked, is make sure your images are keyword rich. Obviously, We know great content has images. We want to make sure that all of our content has an image at the top for catching the eye. And if appropriate, maybe another image inside the body to kind of pull the reader along through the content to whatever the call to action is. That's just really good copywriting practice to make things visually, to pull people through visually. You can do that with images, but when you have those images, there's opportunity to put keywords inside those images, particularly the alt tag, which is another one of these HTML tag things like the title tag, and the title for the image. Those are the two places you can do that. And if you're working in WordPress, you can do that in the media part of WordPress. When you upload the image, you'll have an opportunity to use blue suede shoes. I try, in order to not appear too spammy to Google, I try to have more words in the alt tag than just the keyword. So if the keyword I'm targeting is blue suede shoes, I try to say great picture of blue suede shoes on Elvis impersonator or something like that to make it look a little more natural than just jamming blue suede shoes into the alt tag. Because again, Google's very sophisticated. We want to make sure that it's clear that we're writing for readers. It's also good to do these tags because some of these tags are used for accessibility. So when you do the tags, you want to make sure that you're doing them with that in mind. These tags are used for lots of different things on the internet. So that's number 10. Make sure your images are keyword rich. Now, one more thing that I think we can talk about is number 11, and that is make sure that your keywords are somewhere in the section titles inside your post. You're writing a long post, it's 2,000 words or whatever you decided to target for this, or 1,000 words. In order for a reader to get through that, there's going to have to be some breaks in that text. You don't want to build what's called a wall of text. No one's going to read that. You need section titles and short paragraphs to visually pull the reader through the article. And when you do those section titles, these are the so-called headings, H1, heading 1, H2, H3, H4, and so forth. You want to make sure that once or twice in there, your keywords appear, right? So you want to make sure that blue suede shoes is in at least one of the headings inside your article. And the reason is that Google seems to understand that headings should, in a normal case, tell you what a section of an article is about in the same way that a title tells you what the title of the article is about. So in those heading tags, you want to make sure that you have once or twice your keyword that you're trying to target in that tag. Again, very important not to be spammy, very important not to overdo any of this stuff, but that's number 11, is make sure that you're in the title tags. Now, for the rest of this, that's 11. So for the rest of this, I want to move a little bit off page. So most of the stuff that we've talked about is stuff that you can do on page. Most of this is covered in the Yoast SEO plugin. I will caution you that Yoast is still, for some reason that I can't understand, talking about keyword density. I certainly don't recommend that. You want to do exactly what I said, I believe. Have your keyword in there a couple of times and have related keywords in there. You certainly don't want a percentage of words as a keyword. But I like all of the other recommendations from the Yoast SEO program, and that covers a lot of the above 11. Let's talk about number 12. And number 12 is, in cases where you're building links back to your article, you want to make sure that the anchor text is widely varied. Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. So it turns out that back in the day, and I've done podcast episodes on this in the past, but back in the day when the Google search algorithm was invented, the patent that was filed talked about this idea of using links to an article to determine the article's importance. This is easy to understand, right? If you're, talking about light bulbs, it's likely that you're going to link back to one of Edison's original papers about inventing the light bulb, because that's the authoritative source on light bulbs. Or if you are writing about cancer or some other medical condition, it's likely that you're going to link back to WebMD, because that's one of the most authoritative sources on the internet for medical information. And sure enough, a lot of people do link back to WebMD, and you can see in their backlink profile, if you use some sophisticated tools like Ahrefs or Mozlinks or one of those, you can see that, hundreds of millions of people link back to WebMD, and that's why they have so much authority on the internet. So it's likely, as part of your search engine optimization, that to get your article to rank, you're going to be building backlinks to your article in some way, shape, or form eventually. And sometimes that just means you do a guest blog post, or you leave a forum post, or do something where you link back to your article. The important thing here is to make sure that that anchor text that points back to your article is varied across the internet. And what is anchor text? Well, if you're going along and you read, to download my latest blah, 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 click here, and click here is highlighted, and that click here points to a link, some download page, some zip file somewhere. The words click here that are highlighted, the thing that you actually click the mouse on, that's the anchor text. And so for your anchor text, you might be, someone might link to you and say, for the best deal on blue suede shoes in Dallas, Texas, click here. And in that case, click here would be the anchor text that you got from that link. Much better anchor text for you would be, you can find great blue suede shoes in Dallas, where blue suede shoes in Dallas was the anchor text, and that was pointed back in your site. Why? Because when Google sees that backlink, they're going to count it as a vote for your site, and they're going to derive some information about what your page is about, because the person who wrote this link, who linked to your site, they know what your page is about, and they've said it's about blue suede shoes in Dallas, because that's the anchor text that they use. So Google uses that anchor text information, and it's very important that be as varied as possible across the internet. Anytime anytime you're in control of what that anchor text says, you need to make sure essentially that it's different from the last time, even if it's only slightly different. Why? Because that's natural. No two webmasters are going to link to your website the same way. It might be normal for you to have a few more blue suede shoes links than others, but some people are going to link entire sentences. Some people are going to say, click here. Some people are going to link to link the word Dallas. And so you want that natural looking backlink profile in terms of anchor text. So if you're doing anything to build links as part of your SEO strategy, you want to make sure your anchor text is varied. Number 13 is, we also believe that it's best and important that the anchor text be from relevant content. And by that, I mean, it would be very unusual if a Russian dating site was linking to you for blue suede shoes. I mean, unless it was a dating site for people who wanted to date people who look like Elvis. I mean, I don't know. But, you want other shoe websites or clothing review websites or websites that are somehow related to the thing that you're writing about to link to you. So you want your backlinks, to the extent that you're going out and trying to build them and reaching out to other webmasters and trying to get links, you want them to be relevant content. Number 14 is that you want to make sure that there's some kind of sharing signal. So it's not real clear to me and others who follow SEO exactly what the importance of sharing is in the Google algorithm, but we know it's increasing. We know that they saw the importance of sharing because they tried to build a social network and, in my opinion, failed. But we know that shares particularly are going to be strong votes for content. I mean, it just makes sense, right? If something is so good that you decided to annoy all of your friends on Facebook with that content, that must be great content. It's not the most important signal necessarily, but it's a signal. And we think that that's going to become increasingly important moving forward. It's just common sense. People are spending so much time sharing great content on social networks. It only makes sense that someone who is trying to identify great content would take that into account. And so because of that, I definitely recommend that you work to try and create sharing signals around your content. That means sharing your posts on Twitter and Facebook and hopefully getting them retweeted and so forth. You're going to want some kind of social sharing signal. It doesn't make so much sense, especially in some niches, to have fantastic content that no one is sharing. That just doesn't make any sense. And so, maybe if it's a review for some unmentionable medical condition, you wouldn't expect social shares, but in some niches, great content is expected to be shared. And so you need to evaluate your niche to understand if that's the case. And you need to try and get your content shared in Facebook groups and other places where people in your niche hang out. I think that's going to become increasingly important. So the final tip, the bonus tip, tip number 15, I promised you 14. I'm over delivering with tip number 15. Is your content duplicated? And by that, I mean, is it duplicated either on your site or elsewhere on the internet? Still, for my money, the easiest way to check this is to run it through a tool called Copyscape. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes. You can certainly do this by hand in Google. You can, put chunks of your article through the Google search engine, and it'll go find places where your content is duplicated. But Copyscape is a really nice tool for this, and it will tell you if someone else on the internet has got a version of your content that's out there, or if you've accidentally duplicated a portion of content on your website, on your own website. Both of those are bad for reasons that we've discussed in the past. And so you definitely want to minimize duplicate content. I'll give you a couple of examples of how this can happen to you. One is a lot of us, particularly for niche websites, will outsource content or take guest posts or any number of things where you're not the writer of the content and you don't know exactly how it's created. Sometimes people will borrow a little too heavily from content that's already out there on the internet, either accidentally or on purpose during their research when they write their articles. You need to check for that and make sure you don't have that kind of content on your website. If your content is not passing Copyscape, you shouldn't post it to your website. That's plain and simple. Second way that this can happen to you is duplicate content on your own website. And I actually have a problem with this on my website right now that I'm going to have to clean up over in latenightinginternetmarketing.com, because at the end of every podcast blog post, I say something like, if you want more fantastic content from Mark, just click here and I'll send you whatever you want, or, whatever. It's a call to action to get people to subscribe and download more stuff and so on and so forth. And it's the same on every podcast episode. That means the end of every podcast episode post has the exact same content. And I have 109, including this one, episodes of that over and over and over again. Google really doesn't like that. So I'm going to have to fix that by converting those to images. And that's part of this site redo that I'm doing, is to convert that repeated text that's repeated over and over and over again to images. So that's a good way that you can handle that. So the 15 tips. Number 1, do you know what keyword you're targeting with your post? Number 2, is that keyword and friends of that keyword, are they somewhere in the post itself? Number 3, is the content that you've created better than all the other content out there for that keyword? Number 4, do you have more words than everyone else? Number 5, is your main keyword in the title tag and in the post slug, that is the website address for the page? Number 6, is your SEO title, the title that Google's going to use for the listing, is it compelling? And number 7, Is your description compelling in the same way? Does it cause people to want to click? Number 8, do you have a couple of outbound authority links to authority sites like WebMD or Wikipedia? And number 9, are you linking to other posts in your website from this post? And are you linking to this post from other posts in your website? Number 10, are your images keyword rich? And number 11, is your keyword in the heading tags inside of your post? Those were the on-page things. Number 12 was, do your backlinks have varied anchor text? Number 13, are your backlinks from relevant content, not from, Russian dating sites? Number 14, is there some kind of sharing signal around your content? And number 15, are you a victim of duplicate content? Those are the 15 tips. Again, no need to write those down because I've done it for you. All you needed to do is go to this episode at latenightim.com/109. There will be a big button there that you can push, and I will deliver that PDF file directly to your inbox at no charge to you. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope this helps you with your SEO. Really, if you follow these 15 tips for SEO, there's not much other SEO that you need to do. There's some promotion stuff, off-page stuff that we can talk about in another episode. How do I get these backlinks? How many should I get? What do I need to do? That's a whole nother episode. But if you can follow these 15 tips, you're going to be in better shape than the vast majority of webmasters out there. I hope you enjoyed it. Go out there and crush some Google rankings. Okay, that wraps it up for today. I hope this has been super big time helpful for you. I'm in a little bit of a funk because my Texas Rangers lost, so I'll be moping around for the next couple of days, but I will be back in a week. We'll talk about something exciting. In fact, what we're going to talk about is the fact that you are already an expert. I bet you didn't know that. I bet you didn't know you were an expert. Well, I'm going to convince you of that in episode 110. Until then, I'd love to hear from you at support@latenightim.com or in the comments for the show, and I will talk to you soon.
You can do it right when it's late at night.
You've been listening to the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
Be sure to visit latenightpodcast.com today to leave feedback for Mark. Download special bonus content, access the show notes, and more. See you there.
Until then, go and make some great progress on your internet business. One night at a time.
One night at a time.
Oh, I'm so sad. I'm so sad that my Rangers lost. I don't understand what happened. I do. I understand what happened. Talking about the Texas baseball Rangers. And I know exactly what happened. It turns out that in order to win in the playoffs in Major League Baseball, you have to have really good pitching. Now, there are some exceptions, I guess. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but, defense trumps offense in Major League Baseball. And if you don't have great pitching, your chances of surviving the playoffs are not good. So, to all the listeners and fans in Canada, particularly Toronto, congratulations. Well played. You guys crushed us. It was quite embarrassing. And we'll see you next year. Peace out.
Late night internet marketing.
Hey, it's Mark again. I wanted to tell you one more time about this absolutely free resource that I have for helping people who are trying to get the big picture for internet marketing, actually get started and understand what all their choices are. If that's not you, there's no more content. You can skip to the end. But if you're someone who came to this podcast because you're searching for how to get started online and you just can't cut through all the noise, I get it. That was me in 2007 when I was trying to get started. There were so many people throwing offers at me that I really couldn't even understand what all the different business models were. I couldn't understand how money moved around on the internet. And I couldn't really get a grip on what direction I wanted to go in so I could figure out how to move forward. I've created a free video resource for you just for that purpose at latenightim.com/explain. In several short videos, I just explained to you what internet marketing is all about and what online business is all about and the different options that you have for starting an online business. There's nothing to buy there. You just sign up for access and you get the videos just like that. So if that's interesting to you, or if you know someone who's in a same situation, send them that link, latenightim.com/explain. And let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what people are thinking that are in the exact same position that I was in more than a decade ago in 2007. In some ways, it seems like yesterday. And in some ways, it seems like an entire lifetime ago. Again, that's latenightim.com/explain.
Late night internet marketing.